This time, I'd like to welcome everyone here. Ask Commissioner Kessler if he'll lead us in the invocation and the prayer pledge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would you please join me in the spirit of prayer? Dear Creator, we thank you for the good earth that has been granted to us. We as people of faith are so deeply concerned with those who frack and place profit over ethic. We pray for our state, our elected officials, our leaders, and all Floridians to rightfully protect the land and water from which we rely so heavily on. Creator, help us realize there are other more viable options for energy. Open the hearts and minds of your people to plan for the future. May we work as stewards for the protection of all our natural resources for today and for generations to come. Change us all. Empower us to be united in this cause for justice. Bless our efforts. Keep us humble. But most of all, keep us bold in our stewardship of what you have given us. We lift this prayer in the name of that which is holy to each of us. Thank you.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm off there. Yeah, I know. I didn't mean to. All righty. At this time, do we have approval or a motion to approve the agenda?
Two changes, if I could, to the agenda. Number one, I want to pull consent item 3, and if you will indulge me to explain a little bit, I'd like to pull item 8, which is the cat item, off the agenda in order to give an opportunity. I talked to Ivan, I talked to David today, give staff the chance to have a public outreach meeting involving David will be the facilitator, the county administrator. All the public will be invited. It's not a workshop. It's not a commissioner deal. Staff and these concerned citizens to see if they can iron out all the issues there. I mean, there's lots of issues. I've got more calls about this than fracking times 10. So that way everybody can have their input, you know, other than having 5 politicians up here. I'd like for everybody to come to some sort of agreement. There are legitimate health concerns, and the health department will be invited to Ivanhoe to explain those. The ordinance has gone through a few changes. I think everybody would be a lot happier with it, but that'd be a good chance to vet all that out, and that'd be a good chance to take any suggestions to improve it. This is not an emergency, so we'll just put it off till Ivanhoe and David have a chance to have a public outreach meeting, which they've agreed to do. That's my motion on the agenda.
Can we say something on that?
Sure.
Basically, my position on this is I want to see how far the county can get out of this. So I think it's a good motion that we do this, but my position is I want to see the county stay as far away from this as we can.
Do we have a second on that motion or any other changes?
I'll make a second.
Make a second. Any other changes to the agenda?
Oh, I support cats.
I told Howard when we first started the meeting that I'm going to be the first one to say I support cats, but he beat me. I have 3 cats. By the way.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes.
So we're not going to be speaking about the ordinance tonight. So if that's the only reason you came, I encourage everyone that came to this that's here for cats to go to the public meeting that David's going to arrange, and please give your input then and see if we can just work all this out, bring it back, and just pass it.
So no decision will be made. The agenda item will not come up tonight. If you'd like to speak, citizens to be heard, you still can. However, if it's about that and you want to save it for the public meeting, that'll work also. But you do still have the discretion to do that during citizens to be heard if you wish.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, one more thing I'd like to tell everybody that is going. We have to do something. So please, when you go to this public meeting, I'm not going to be there. I don't think any of us are going to go, but the county has to do one of something. So try to find a compromise that can work for everybody, because right now it just says round up feral cats and kill them, and we're trying to get away from that. So your input's welcome. Thank you.
That's yet to be determined, but
We'll let you know. We didn't know it's going to be approved, but we'll let you know just as soon as possible.
It'll be a
We'll
public...
public something out tomorrow.
Will it be a public notice?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
It'll be a public notice in the
Ivanhoe knows who to talk to.
Wakulla
I think.
paper, and we have the reporter for the paper.
We'll also put it on our website, so be looking on the website.
Bring it,
You can
bring
talk
it
about
all.
all that.
Bring
You can
all
talk
of it
all
up.
that.
No, the entire ordinance.
Entire ordinance.
Anything that you think needs to come
Not just
out or
cats.
go in.
I support dogs, too.
Okay, so to be clear, I think we said it a couple of 3 times already, the entire ordinance, that agenda item is being removed
Yes,
and is not going to be addressed by the board this evening.
correct.
Okay.
Correct. Very good. All right, so we'll go into citizens to be heard. Before we do that, I'd like to make sure everyone knows that you have 2 citizens to be heard opportunities, one at the beginning of the meeting, one at the end, either or. Yeah, that's right.
Randy, you know how to clear a room. Good gracious.
Worse than yelling fire.
Glad Randy dismissed that.
Good job. I was going to pull it. It was Heather's idea to change it on the agenda. I gave her credit for that. If I'd have just made a motion to continue it on the item, everybody would still want it.
All right, we're going to move on. If you'd like to speak at Citizens to be Heard, we're about to start that now. You can speak either now or the one at the end, either or, and on each individual agenda item. Just fill out a speaker card with Patty over here. And I'm sure some of these folks have left. Jeanette Burdette. Okay. Linda Chalker. Okay. Roberta Phillips. She left.
Can you stay just a second?
Can you stay to kind of let us know who's on the phone?
Christy Brooks. Chuck Hess.
No. Go through the rest of them.
All right, thank you.
Hang on, Chuck. Let's
Hold on,
see.
Chuck.
Let's see who else we got. Chris Russell still here. David Damon still here. Jeannie Beck. Is she still here? Okay. You're up, Chuck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chuck Hess, 112 Lake Ellen Circle. Usually I would wait for the agenda item, but I have another event I'm going to tonight, giving a talk about forest. And so I wanted to address Mr. Moore's proposal to remove site plans from the in the tree ordinance section. Basically, this was a long process. A lot of members of the community got together and came up with a tree ordinance because we saw that if we don't allow the developer to understand what we want to keep in our community, their first reaction is to come in, clear cut the site, because it's the cheapest and easiest way to do it, okay, and build what they want. As a community, we decided that we wanted to have certain legacy trees and certain characters of our community preserved as they developed. The idea of the tree ordinance was to have them do an inventory of what they had. We gave them incentives. Say if you save these kind of trees, you have to you can put a lot less into your landscaping plan, because it's cheaper to save this if you save this big longleaf here, you don't have to put all these other small trees in at the end of your project. So you actually end up saving money at the end of your project. That was the goal of the tree ordinance, because we saw so many people come in, clear cut, first choice, and then decide what they wanted to build. What the tree ordinance does is it sets up and says, find out what you got, look at what you got, take your item, take what you want to build, and see if you can fit it on the landscape such that it preserves some of the unique character of Wakulla County. And I think that's an important thing to have in our ordinances, and I hope you turn down this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, Mr. Chris Russell.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Evening.
Like I've asked before, I'm going to bring it up again. I'd love to see you make the start time 6 o'clock. These are tax-funded positions up here. The taxpayers have to take off work, or some of us do. I'm fortunate that I live here and work here in the county. But backing up 1 hour, I showed you last time, it really doesn't mess with you a whole lot with the way your meetings have been flowing the last year and a half. Y'all been getting business done quick. We should still be able to get out of here 7:30 at the latest, starting at 6. I'd like to see you do it as a trial, see how we're doing on that, give the citizens the opportunity to get here. Yeah, we put citizens to be heard at the end, but that's after business is done to allow those folks that couldn't make it. So maybe if y'all would consider that, it'd be great. Second thing, it's been 5 years since we've seen the millage rate decrease. I'd sure like to see one. We've been going, we're coming back strong. We got 2 years of property appraiser taxes coming up where we raise them, where they've gone up, property values. Last year it's about $220,000. That's a lot of money. Let's give it back to the citizens on the millage rate decrease or something. We need to be getting, I think our funds are looking pretty darn good. Let's look at that, let's find a way. We have the 1 cent sales tax coming up. I think folks understand that's the only tax that they control in themselves. Y'all control all the other ones. Sure like to see you try to find a way to reduce it this year. All right, thank y'all. Thank you for what you do.
Next, Mr. David Damon.
David Damon, Crawfordville, and I agree with Chris Russell about bumping it up to 6 o'clock would be really nice for people that have to take off early to get here, which is most people, I think. The main thing I want to talk about is a number of issues have been coming before the board lately, like the fracking, and now tonight we have the one that Chuck was talking about with Commissioner Moore about the clear cutting. And I think we need to pay more attention to the issues as far as quality of life for the citizens in Wakulla County. And it seems like there should be a question you ask yourselves before each one of these things and before these changes are made. And the question would be something like this: will what I am proposing positively affect the quality of life for Wakulla County citizens as well as for future generations? Simple enough question. How you answer that is how you should vote, because you're here representing the citizens, right? So when the tree ordinance came about, and I was part of that, the main drive behind that was to keep land from being clear-cut. That so many big old-growth trees in the county were being just bulldozed without giving any thought to it. And there were developers on that same committee when we spent a year drafting that. And those developers had their say, and they agreed as long as they're getting tree credits and there's incentives, yeah, that's great. And then what you're left with when you drive through Crawfordville doesn't look like when you drive through Perry. It doesn't look like the whole thing was bulldozed and then just randomly built up with commercial hodgepodge buildings over the period of 50 years. And that's what we were trying to avoid in Crawfordville. Keep some of the old trees. Don't make it all look, I know there's talk about, well, we'll line it with palm trees. That doesn't look native. That doesn't, a few scattered here and there, that's fine. But the whole point of the tree ordinance to begin with was to save the old growth trees, and now I think we're completely backing up if we consider doing this. This is nothing more than a way to put more money in developers' pockets. Simply put, that's all it is. Make it easy, make it quick, knock them down, and it looks like a blight. It looks like some disease went through there and wiped everything out. That is not a positive impact on the quality of life for citizens in Wakulla County. And I think that's what we need back.
Jeannie Beck, Alcilla Street, Panacea. Well, I am going to touch on the cat issue, but with some other things too. We had a really great charity that took care of the animals and the animal shelter for years here. Everybody agrees they did a fabulous job. They saved the county tens of thousands of dollars every year because it was a charity organization taking care of it. For some reason, I don't know why, I never did figure it out, but the county decided that they wanted to push Chad out and let animal control take care of the animals and the animal shelter. So that was done. And of course this Chat's whole mission was taking care of shelter animals, so that threw Chat into a disarray. Things had to be done, bylaws had to be changed, this and that. And then what's left of the charity is now, some of it is paws. And what these women are trying to do is take care of stray cats. They don't have a shelter, so they're trying to take care of the cats, get them fixed, which means less stray cats, make sure they're healthy, make sure they're fed so they're not roaming all over eating, people's garbage and stuff. They're doing a favor to the county. I read the proposed ordinance, which is now off of today's agenda, and it came across as not just being a whole lot of overreach, it came across as being vindictive. I don't understand it. I mean, when I read it, I just was like, they're supposed to jump through hoops and do all this paperwork, and the worst part is, or they could be fined, because we're going to make up new rules and new code enforcement things. And I know that you guys believe that we don't need any kind of Bloomberg nanny state type stuff here. If we're going to make up any more laws or any more code things to enforce, there better be a really good reason for it, because we need less of that, not more. Anyway, I also think, if you look at what was presented that we were going to talk about, it was ridiculous. I feed squirrels and birds in my yard every day. I don't want anybody telling me I can't. If a stray cat comes into my yard, I'm not going to decide I'm not going to give it something to eat because I'm afraid the code enforcement people are going to be sent to give me a fine. And there was a lot more overreach in that, but I won't go through that at this time because it's not on the agenda today. But I thank you for your time.
Thank you. That ends our citizens to be heard. We'll go into our awards and presentation. Start out with our property appraiser, Mr. Donnie Spartan.
Thank you, fellas. I didn't come with an agenda. I'd had some calls about mineral rights and mineral right deeds and how we appraise them or assess them. Since that time, I'd had a conference with David and Heather as to just trying to get some answers, and so I'm here more to try to answer any questions you have. I'll give you a little bit of a history of what's going on here in the county and a little bit of the state history. As far as I can determine, mineral rights have never been assessed in Wakulla County. I can remember back in the 70s when I worked at the appraiser's office, you'd see mineral rights deeds come in about once a year. You'd see the oil companies come through and do their sounding and whatever, and it was because everybody thought they were going to discover oil then. Well, obviously there wasn't much discovered that time because they've never done anything. So the first question that comes to my mind, how do you put a value on something if you don't know if there's anything there? But the other part that would be a huge problem is that as the clerk of court records deeds, mineral right deeds are just recorded as a deed. So to go back and say, you'd have to go back first and you have to find every mineral right deed that was recorded. The only way to do that is to look at each individual deed that's been recorded since time to do that. So the expense and cost to do that would be astronomical time. And we had a conference recently in February, Property Appraisers Association. There was 50-something appraisers here. And I talked to quite a few of those as to what they do. Some assess them, some don't. Most of the ones that assess them or appraise them either have as in Santa Rosa County, they're producing oil, or in the middle part of the state, you've got phosphate mines, which are producing something. All of them in general said it's a total waste of time. The cost to print the bill and to put it on the roll is more than what the tax brings in, basically, when you put the millage. I looked into the Florida statute, and the way it defines it is if you assess the real property separate of the mineral right, the two together make your just value or market value. So either way, if we're assessing property now, real property at market value, well, that's including the mineral right. So you're not leaving something on the table. Now there's the other problem you would run into with the mineral right deeds is most of them are an interest rather than the total thing. And most deeds, when you read them, the description of where they are and who they are is very vague. So I'm not sure in some cases, and I think some of the ones that come up recently, when that letter was sent out, it was hard to define really where the property was and what it was. So that in itself would make a huge problem. But at this time, we don't assess them. I think it would be, if we discover oil or a phosphate mine pops up, we may need to look into that. But I think right now it'd be an expense to the county rather than more revenue coming in. I'll be glad to answer any questions y'all got.
A couple things, Donnie. First, would it be accurate to say somebody 100 years ago, whatever, reserved mineral rights, if they died, they probably didn't do anything with that mineral right. They probably didn't will it to anybody. So it's now scattered amongst 100 heirs, theoretically own that mineral right. Would that be correct, or is that close?
That's very possible. I mean, you asked me a legal question. That'd be more Heather's question, but I would think that'd probably be right if it would
be very
go out to the
problematic
heirs.
to track down the real.
So
Yeah, I mean, you'd probably have to either outsource it with a large contractor or hire an entire FTE in order to even identify these interests as they exist in your property records now.
Okay, just my point is, it's
Yeah.
a pain in the butt. Number two, would it be correct to say, for example, if I owned a piece of property, I paid $100 on it, and Exxon had the mineral rights underneath it? Just assume they owned 100%. It's not simply that I'm going to pay my $100 and now they're going to pay an extra 10. If they pay 10, I pay 90, right? Because it's still, the dollar amount has
right,
value.
the two come to one, which
So
is
it's
your market
not,
value.
there's no free money that's not being assessed, is my point.
True.
That's my point.
Yeah.
We're not leaving something on the table by not taxing mineral rights of anybody.
Right, as it is right now. And it's, like I said, it's at the expense to try to put them on would be outweigh what the value you would receive from it. And probably the number one problem I see, and other than trying to find them and put them on, is coming up with a value when right now you don't have any proof there's anything there. So all I could see is you could get contested real quick. And like I say, most of the appraisers agree that it's a waste of money and time right now. Now the ones that do have producing stuff, it's a different story there. But you've got something to hang your hat on there.
Howard.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Mr. Sparkman. That really helps clear up a lot of the questions, at least that I had and others had. So that's good. But since you're up here, okay, I've been hearing different things about where our property values are heading. It looked like a couple of years ago they were starting to tick up. Is that, in your opinion, the way it's going? Because I hear other people saying, well, it looks like these property appraisers that are out there in business are saying, no, it's going down. Is it flat? Is it...
Parts of it are. What I've seen over starting last year, well, the year before, we were positive by less than 1%. Last year, I think we come in at the end at 2.7% positive. It's way early now to give you a projection. I think we'll be at least that or more this year. What we're seeing, if property has a house on it that's fairly new, doesn't have to be new, then you're seeing a $70,000 to $100,000 increase in sales. If it's a vacant lot, in most instances, they're pretty much staying flat. I'm just not seeing any change there. The biggest thing that can help us is the more new construction we get, then it offsets any depreciation and whatnot, and we start seeing a positive roll, and that's what's really helped us in the last 2 years. And you have to bear in mind that I know building permits have increased, but you're a year to a year and a half before you see that really come to the tax roll. So it takes you that long, but values are going up if there's a house on it. If it's just a vacant lot, I'm not seeing a whole lot of difference in it right now. It still seems to be flat. I'm not seeing anything really going down, but I'm not seeing any increase. I'm not sure. Talking to other appraisers in other parts of the state, some of them see the same thing that I'm seeing. The farther south you get, the more they see a complete turnaround. And we're usually 3 to 5 years behind what goes on down there, so it may take that much longer before it gets here. But it's a good thing at least to see a positive where it was negative for about 3 or 4 years.
Good.
I think you'll be positive this year. I don't know how much yet. It's too early to tell.
Thank you.
Sure.
Further comments, questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Appreciate you.
Next, Ms. Nikisha Oliver, our Probation Service Director.
Commissioners.
Evening.
I need a third PowerPoint. I'm here to provide you the update on what we've been doing in our probation office. Our daily goal is to make sure that our hope is to encourage and inspire each probationer that comes into our office to be better walking outside of our door than they were walking in.
I know you don't want that.
It's okay.
Much better.
Each day we do try to accomplish this goal by providing our probationers with these things that I listed, which is we provide them the resources to contact substance abuse counselors, your mental health counselors, anger management, job services, and continuing education. Underneath you see there's a trend and epidemic and just a widespread between your youth and your young adults that are using methamphetamines, also known as meth, and a drug called flocka. The good thing, the best part about my job is I get to refer all of our clients to substance abuse counselors. These substance abuse counselors teach our probationers the physical, I'm being tongue-tied. The substance abuse counselors are teaching them ways to prevent them from using again. It shows them triggers that they can get themselves into to cause them to use and abuse. It tells them ways that their choices have affected their family, work, school, their household. It also teaches them to contact these local self-help groups, which is great. I love that about Wakulla County. We have all three of these self-help groups. We have your Alcoholics Anonymous, your Narcotics Anonymous, and your National Alliance for Mental Illness. All three of these self-help groups are here in Wakulla County. We ask them to go to these self-help groups in addition to their substance abuse counseling, because this helps and couples them. They get to meet people who are dealing with these alcohol and drug issues. They get to meet people who have had 5, 10, 15, or 20 years of sobriety, and they hopefully reach different people who are not using and abusing, and helping them find ways to prevent them from using again and making wiser choices. To go back, we also have our job services.
You went the wrong way.
I went back.
Oh.
But thank you for looking out for me. I wanted to go back. We also have some people who've been court-ordered to complete anger management, batters intervention through your county and your circuit court, which is Judge Kaloka Johnson and Joe Walker. The continuing education is very important, too, because statistics show that the higher education you have, the less likely you are to recommit and commit a crime. We use the Wakulla County ACE, which is your Adult and Communication Education. Mr. Harold Ross with your Veteran Services has also helped us out tremendously, and we've had an improved increase and interest in the GED enrollment. We work closely with your state attorney's office, your public defenders, the clerk of court, our county and circuit judge, again Judge Walker and Judge Kaloka Johnson, the sheriff's office, and right now we're averaging 140 office visits per month. That includes our probationers that have been court ordered to report. We average around 6 to 7 court dates, and we remain in contact with these different agencies, because we even had to contact the sheriff's office, and we had Officer Whaley come out to actually test a substance that I had a probationer bring in the courthouse. So I call us one piece of the puzzle that helps our probationers connect to other agencies, local and also in Leon County, to complete their probation. Our goal is to gain new technology that will better assist us improve our probation supervision. We also plan on developing a workshop, and myself and Commissioner Harden we're in the Public Safety Council Committee, and that's what we talk about a lot, is developing a workshop that will provide a number of agencies, such as your DUI school, your substance abuse counselors, and your mental health assistants in one place at one time, so our probationers can be able to enroll in these classes at one place, because a lot of them have transportation issues. So that is what we're doing.
I don't seem too naive, but what is flocka? You know what it is, Chris?
Here, unfortunately, it's here too. It's between your youth and your young,
It's a bad, so I take it that's a
It's
bad...
a derivative
It's
of
a
your
drug.
spice. Yes,
If
it
you're
is
growing
an
a
illegal
beard, you
drug.
might use it.
It's a derivative of spice. Have you heard of spice?
I've heard of the movie Dune that had spice in it, but I don't know if I've heard of...
It's
It's
a
the
derivative of
latest.
spice. It's, have you heard of bath salts? And like, what, a year and a half ago down south when they
At
found
least
the
they
man
ain't
that
got
was
this in Smith Creek, do they? That's what I thought. That's where I grew up.
an illegal drug.
I guess I'm sheltered. Thank you.
It's here.
Jerry?
Basically, where the NAMI organization in the county is really, really active.
For your mental health, yes.
They have a very active chapter,
Mm-hmm.
but I never hear anything about AA.
Alcoholics Anonymous?
I know how valuable they are because
They are.
where I came from, I had lots of people I knew that benefited greatly, but I don't hear much about AA here in the county, and I don't hear anything about NA in the county. And I know those are important associations, but why can't we get more publicity? Where do the people find the AA number? Is it advertised? Is it in the paper? Or
We have pamphlets in our office
yeah,
for
but you,
all three of those, and then because you have an AA group, that's the most powerful group we have right here in Crawfordville is your AA. They are, well, I'm not going to say most powerful, but most frequented. We have an AA, you have an AA group 7 days a week.
and where would that location be?
They have different agencies. There's one actually right behind your Azalea Park.
Chris is
You
nodding his
have
head,
one
yes.
in...
I just think the citizens would be it would be helpful if you maybe put that in the paper. The AA meets here whenever, whatever, if possible. It doesn't do much good if the paperwork is in your office.
Nicole said it's in the paper, right?
Okay.
Almost every
Okay.
week, yeah.
Good enough. One thing, just a comment though, is how dangerous drugs are. In this New Hampshire election that they just had, there was a town in New Hampshire, affluent town in New Hampshire, of 100,000 people that were having one death a day. One death a day in drugs. And that's just in a town of 100,000. They had a person dying every day on drugs.
Yes, sir. Then that's the thing. A lot of people don't want to talk about it, and they don't want to say that it's happening in my house, but it's very common. And that's the one thing I also tell people when they come and see me. Some are embarrassed, some are remorseful, some are ashamed. And that's what I do like about it is because our motto is I treat everyone the way I would want to be treated. We all make mistakes, but it happens. And the great thing is the substance abuse counselors. That's why that was one of the first things that I started off with. Substance abuse counseling, it helps. Does this system work for everyone? No. But it does work for some, and that's why there's always room for improvement. And that's also why we strive to try to find new ways, too, for those who we have lost. I think substance abuse counseling coupled with this self-help helps. When you have a safety net at home, it does wonders. Sometimes you don't have that, but that's why these self-help, the AA, NA, and your NAMI help, because they're around people who are going through what they went through. And you have some who are chairpersons. They have gained sobriety for 5, 10, 15, 20-plus years, and they can help them along the way. But I agree.
One of the things that we're wanting to do, we talked about in our management meeting, is listening to EMS and our fire rescue and folks, is they're seeing more and more of the FLACA, and she's seeing more and more of the FLACA effect, and it's growing in our county. So we're wanting to bring some awareness to that, and we'll be hopefully in the future we'll be bringing more things on that. But I want to thank Nikisha.
You're welcome.
She's the nicest, tough lady there is in this county.
Yes, and we are trying to stay on top of it because there's not too many agencies that are testing for FLACA at this time, and we are one of them. We do have the test here because it's a fairly new drug.
You mentioned that you make 140 contacts a month. Do you meet with each of your clients every month? How does that work out, or multiple times a month?
It depends. If you're doing well, you're going to see me once a month. If you're not doing so good, you can see me. You can call me every day. I'm not going to see you face to face every day, and that's because there's only one me. But if you're not doing so well, I see clients as often as once a week, face to face. Breathalyzers. That's if you're not, to make sure you're not drinking. It can be 5 times a week.
So you
So it just
become
depends on how
mother
we-
hen
how
to
we're-
to a lot of them.
Exactly.
Good job.
Mr. Randy, one of the things on flock is that
Flock.
it raises your body temperature as it makes you high. So a lot of people on flock are running down the road taking their clothes off.
I work in
Smith Creek
prison.
thing.
Yeah, I work in prisons. I've had to deal with have to respond. Once you've had to respond to that, somebody that's on that or spice, you see what the effects of it is. You know, and I appreciate Lakeisha for everything that she does, because dealing with these people that she deals with, she's one person that goes and she deals with some people that every one of them are potentially dangerous and every one of them could potentially cause harm, and she puts herself regularly in that way, and I appreciate her for being willing to do that.
Thank you.
So on the, a couple of questions on the Flocka. How long after someone has taken Flocka does it remain in their bloodstream?
72 hours.
72 hours. So you have that window. And have you seen people in close to the time where they've taken the drug?
I can't say yes or no, and that's why I gave the example. The gentleman who came in with the white powdered substance in his pocket, I had him tested, but it does not mean that he did or did not use, because there's so many variables when you come into that. I tested him, but he was negative. So
Okay.
as far as I know, no. But you can also have people, it just depends on your court order, because we can have people who we think are under the influence, but if they have not been given, if we haven't been given the permission by that judge to test them, there's nothing that we can do.
Right. Yeah, understand. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nikisha.
You're welcome.
Next, Mr. Harold Ross, our Veteran Service Officer.
Good evening, Commissioners. Come this evening bringing some good news. First of all, I want to bring attention to an event that we're trying to put together here in April. We want to host our first welcome home ceremony for Vietnam veterans, April 2nd, Hudson Park at 11 a.m. It's and the reason that now is so important, we're losing our Vietnam veterans at a rate of almost 309 a day. So that whole generation, the Vietnam era generation, is wasting away quickly, more so than the World War II, World War I, Korea, or our recent wars. So it is important that we let those guys know how much we appreciate them, giving them what they're justly due before it's too late.
You mind repeating that date again for us?
It is April 2nd at Hudson Park at 11 a.m.
I think that's the welcome home party, right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
The information I just passed to you, it's some excellent resources that was directed to me to be able to empower the veterans of Wakulla County. The first flyer you're looking at is for the Veterans Entrepreneurship Program. Basically, it's a 3-phase program that takes recently departed veterans, active service members, and regular veterans and teach them how to create, build, launch, and run their own businesses. Phase 1 is March 15th to March 3rd, 8-week online course teaching the basics of entrepreneurship. Phase 2, May 7th to the 22nd, 6-day in-class, run 3 concurrent weekends where they sit down and they give them the meat and potatoes of business ownership, and business finance, and business management. And the third phase is a 6-month follow-up with Florida Small Business Development Council. Their consultants and experts in their field will help guide, launch, and help those veterans succeed in business by shoring up that first year that's usually in doubt for most business owners. Excuse me. Now, the following pages are the second program that I found. The program is called Outward Bound. Another absolutely free program to veterans. In those pictures, you'll see some of the activities that the veterans are privy to in this program. The program combines the best part of military service from camaraderie, team building, problem solving, bonding, and healing in several challenging programs that brings veterans together. I mean, the options for this is backpacking in Joshua Tree, sailing in the Florida Keys, rafting in the Southwest, kayaking on Lake Superior, canoeing in 10,000 Islands, canyon backpacking in the Southwest, dog sledding and cross-country skiing in Alaska, sailing the Maine coast, whitewater canoeing in Maine, boundary water canoeing in Maine or on the Outer Banks of North Carolina, and backpacking the Appalachian Trail. And other locations include the High Sierras, Oregon River, Colorado Rockies, San Juan Island, the Blue Ridge Mountains, and the Delaware Water Gap. And if you look at the price tag on that, absolutely free. They will fly the veteran to the location of their choice, outfit them, and then give them 6 days of doing whatever they do, whatever activity they choose, with a group of 19 other veterans, and then they'll fly them home.
That's pretty incredible.
It's some big name Fortune 500 companies that's been pumping money into this program for years, and a lot of smaller agencies, and the word is just now getting out. And the program serves from youth all the way to adulthood. So that's basically in a nutshell what we're trying to get out. And the biggest thing here now would be educating Wakulla. In cooperation with Ms. Oliver and probations, we've been able to assist a lot of people in continuing their education through GED, either technical training or higher learning, because I believe edification is the benchmark of change. And if we cannot educate, we cannot change what's going on, and there's no hope for change in the future. So to allow people to be what they want to be when they grow up, we're trying to put them on a track for success, and the only known track for success is education. And that's my biggest thing. I'm all about education. Educating oneself and educating the public on what's available to them, and empowering them to use what they learn to help themselves and others, so everyone can come up together.
Question. Thank you, sir. Comment. On these outings, is there any requirements other than being a veteran? And how would they find out more information?
I have the information is on the way. He's sending me the application and the brochures and the packets. So it's a simple application you get accepted on. You apply, you get accepted, and you get the ticket in the mail.
Disabled veterans or any veteran?
No, it's more for, you have to be kind of fit, because these are rugged, heavy packs, hard lifting, moving, humping.
Okay.
So you have to be in fairly good shape.
So Jerry couldn't go.
Further comments, questions? Thank you, sir.
What's the dollar value of services you brought to the county this past year? What was that?
Oh, I don't have that.
Come on.
You know what it is, David.
The value of the services I brought to the county?
Yeah, remember you announced that in our management meeting. The services?
Oh, $1.3 million.
Yes.
Yes.
The services to our veterans.
And you're serving roughly 3,000 veterans in Wakulla County?
Yes, sir.
Great. Thank you.
We appreciate you for all that you're doing.
Yes, it's nothing that I did. It's simple blessings and faith.
And the board recently brought the veteran servicer on full-time instead of part-time.
Yes.
Last budget year.
Thank you very much, Harold.
Yep,
Good
and I
job.
want to
Thank
thank
you,
the
sir.
veterans of Wakulla County for trusting and believing in me.
Yep, they do.
Good job. All right, I have an announcement to make. Everyone's invited to the 50th Annual Swine Show on Saturday, February 27th. This year's event will start at 11 a.m. with local vendors and music performed by Jason Taylor from WTNT. Barbecue plates will be served starting at 11 a.m. and plates are $8. The actual show starts at 1 p.m. Following the show will be the pig auction and an antique auction. Everyone is invited in the community to come out and show support for the 50th Annual Swine Show. Enjoy a full day of fun activities. That ends our awards and presentation,
Move consent.
with the exception of number
Three.
3. We have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. All right, we'll go to item number 3.
You want me to just do it?
Yes.
I pulled this off. This is the resolution approving the local mitigation strategy plan. I was actually on this local mitigation strategy board before I had Cleve's job, when I had Brent's job. And for some reason, this countywide stormwater study has always been up high on this list, and it's always irked me because page 111 of the presentation. Number 1 is countywide stormwater study. Number 2 is countywide stormwater study and mitigation. And it's always irked me because that's not specific. You know, we don't need a stormwater study in Smith Creek. You know, we don't need a stormwater study in the National Forest. Later projects say stuff like drainage in Panacea, drainage along Smith Creek Road, Magnolia Gardens and Griner's Addition, stormwater projects. My suggestion would be to change number 1 from countywide to Crawfordville area, because we've already got, you know, choppy, these different areas, and there's always been this talk over the years of, well, we need a countywide stormwater study. I still haven't figured out what that is, because nobody's going to go check all the culvert sizes in the whole county, and I'm not arguing with Scott. Scott, you remember when I was on this board years ago?
I'm not going to argue with you either.
Okay.
We're good.
But, you know, this was made back in the day when there were no standards for stormwater. You had swale exemptions, you know, you didn't have really strong standards, but now the Water Management District has taken over. You're required to do attenuation for 25-year, 24-hour storms. It's totally different rules. That is our stormwater plan. If we're going to do a mitigation project, I think it should be a certain area, like the Wakulla Gardens, which is already in here, or Magnolia Gardens, which is already in here. So I'd like to change that to Crawfordville instead of just countywide.
So when you say Crawfordville, you're talking about the
Town plan
town
area.
plan area?
Yeah.
Mhm, okay.
You know, if we could have a central stormwater facility somewhere in Crawfordville, it'd be a lot better than, I mean, but this is never going to get a grant. I mean, who's going to give you a grant for a countywide stormwater
I
study?
need a second.
It's already gotten it.
That's a motion to accept it with that modification?
Yes. If Scott, you all right with that?
Well, and I'll just add to it, that's fine, we can do that and even detail more into areas. The reason it's there like that, no stormwater study is eligible for funding through the mitigation side. So we've got to look to other partners, DEP, Water Management District, to fund them. But you're right, we're not going to get them
That would
to
make
fund.
it eligible, if nothing else, for a non-point source pollution grant through DEP. We can show it's number 1 on our mitigation project, and that,
I think we can look at our other project areas and go ahead and build stormwater studies. We'll go through the stapling process. My assumption is we'll keep the stormwater plan processes up fairly high, because those come first. We can't do the project till we know what we need to do.
to me, this is kind of like, I think, what is it, number, bear with me a second, Scott, says that we add a foot of freeboard to the finished floor elevation, make a county requirement. That's kind of what this storm study is. That's a county policy. Here it is, flood construction 1 foot freeboard requirement is ranked number 6. That's a policy decision, and I think this stormwater study is a policy, but if we change it to Crawfordville stormwater study, I think it might get more traction.
We can easily do that. And we've got some other comments we've received.
By changing that, would that eliminate?
And
That's right.
here's kind of the committee's look at that. We can, this is not, actually that's an appendix to the plan, so we can change and add. So we've had, let's say we have a hurricane and we have an immediate need that we know we didn't know before. we can add that, we get together as a committee, we vote, say that's a viable project, we rank it, and we can put that forward as a project. It's got to be on a list to go forward for federal grant funding. For most of the projects we have are completed without the federal HMGP dollars. So there are usually these grants are
Well, the key is,
we have a need somewhere else if it's not there.
Now, but in the future, you may want to narrow that down to a certain project. If nothing else, maybe we can get more points on a different grant.
Yep. And I know, yeah, and that's the good thing about this committee. It's got a large group of people who can come together, and if we see a need, we can listen to address those today. So I think we hopefully have good outcomes there. But yeah, it's easy enough to do, and I think the item is to get it for a workshop on the 6th. So,
Public hearing.
Public hearing. So if we should be able to have this completed by then. If not, we can still make the change by committee following that.
The agenda item says, request board approval of a resolution approving the 2016 Wakulla County Local Mitigation Strategy Plan.
It was amended. You received
There you
a
go.
supplemental item to approve,
Oh,
to
amended.
schedule the hearing to approve this.
Was
The
that
federal
email?
rule requires public opportunity for public input at adoption.
So that's all we're approving tonight, is just to hold the hearing.
Yes,
so
correct.
The amendment is
But
noted,
we'll make
and
the
bring
changes
that
up front, so there's, yeah, that's easy.
Yep.
Howard.
So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, I just want to state, first off, I looked at the people that signed into the meetings, and you had really good attendance as participation, seemed like. I spoke with Melissa and spoke with Paul Johnson, and I think that I wasn't aware that there was a sort of a consultant involved also, but and I understand that we need to follow certain rules in order for us to qualify to get more of an advantage, and the carrot is going from the 13.5% up to the 20% that the county would gain. It's really an amazing document, even with the things that I questioned in it, some of the statistics that I really have a problem with, and hopefully you'll go and ferret those out and look at them as far as just verifying them, okay? But it's one of these documents that you can use to read to go to sleep with, but every once in a while it's going to wake you up with like I never knew that Florida was the highest tornado per square mile in the country. So we have the highest number of tornadoes. Okay, they may not be as strong as some of the other ones, but we do have that. I didn't realize that almost 50% of Wakulla County lived in mobile homes. So there's really a lot of information in this 120 or 30 some odd pages, and I really want to commend the people that took part in getting this document forward. I know we do it every so often, and we sort of take it for granted, but I just wanted to especially just give kudos, because this really is a big piece of work, so thank you.
And let me just take a minute.
Sure.
Frank Kutnick was the contractor for DSI that supported us on this. Frank died in December. He was known, you may have worked with him, Randy, in the past, but he was known not just in our state, he was known nationwide, and he loved this county, and they worked for nearly nothing on this project to get it done. And again, he was a big loss for the state, but a loss for this community. Everybody on the committee loved him. He was a truly great man. But I just wanted, as you mentioned, that the contractor wanted to point him out and remember him.
These things aren't really important until you have a major storm and you go to apply for a mitigation project that the federal government's going to pay for, and they say, is it on your list?
This
Not on your list?
This does two things. It's our roadmap to move forward, and it's also my planning tool for what we need to be focusing on. So hurricanes, tornadoes, I think one F4 in the history of our state. So they're small, but we have two major plans that I utilize: the Comprehensive Emergency Management Plan, which y'all will be seeing sometime this year, and the local mitigation strategies. So yeah, they're very important when you need them. And the process of planning this whole discussion is what's knowing that you all are actually reading and paying attention it's actually a very good thing that you know the plans and the processes that exist in emergency management.
How often do you revise this, Scott?
This is every 5 years. We revise the list and do the stapling as needed. So usually if we've got a grant coming up and we've got a project that we want to target, we'll sit down and make sure we look at the list and make sure we look at all the projects. So we meet a couple of times a year.
Thank you, sir.
Right, and the citizens, even though they may not be wanted to either speak to or make a recommendation for, they can contact you and that would be taken into consideration.
They can, and usually what we look at is the greater good where the grant money is spent, that we're focused on a project that will have the greater good. There's two reasons. One, it impacts most of the county, and number two, when there's a cost benefit that goes to it, and if you're looking at one family versus 50 families, our chances of getting a grant when our cost benefit is low is not good at all. So,
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Did you modify your motion? To schedule
the
it?
hearing.
Oh, yeah, I did that.
Did we get a second on that?
No.
Do we have a
Second.
second?
Second.
Yeah, you had a second.
We have a second. She said no.
I think so. No?
Brandy?
You didn't have mine? Okay.
We do now. Further
Okay.
discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Next, we'll go to general business, item number 12.
Chief is going to make that presentation.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm sure you've studied the agenda item already. I don't intend to read the whole thing, but just to give a synopsis, and then feel free to shoot any questions. We are proposing that Wakulla County purchase 3 fire engines. The question has been asked, why 3? Basically, when we did a presentation to the board 3 years ago, it was called the State of the VFDs in the county, and we outlined several different issues, and some of that was the age of the apparatus. And during the November pump test, which is held every year in November, 2 of these pieces of apparatus did not pass their pump test. And I walked into Mr. Edwards' office and I told you the day was coming. We have 1 budgeted. We actually need 3, and that's why there's 3 on the table for you to consider this evening. We're not adding to the fleet. We're replacing the fleet. We've salvaged 1 since I've been here due to a damage at a fire, and there are 2 that are 30 and 32 years old respectively that I do not feel it would be good management to put the money into replacing the parts needed to make them usable again. And once we did that, we'd still have a 30 and 32-year-old fire truck. So we're proposing to purchase 3 out of the penny sales tax. If you remember, a little over a year ago, we had a workshop to discuss the plan that was presented to increase the MSBU fees, and in that plan was a apparatus replacement, and I believe it was every other year that we would replace an apparatus until they were all up to more modern fleet. You turned that rate increase down, that's respected. That's your responsibility to do what you feel free, but that didn't leave us any money for capital items. We came back with another proposal for another increase in the MSBU that would give us some apparatus replacement, and that did not pass either. So Mr. Edwards came back to you with a change in the 1-cent sales tax fee, allocation of it to increase the public safety sector of that 1-cent sales tax, to have 22% of that 1-cent sales tax go to public safety. As far as we can tell, nowhere have that penny sales tax ever been used for the fire service. It's been used for law enforcement and EMS vehicles, but not the fire department. And with the increase, we feel that we can purchase that. It would actually be considered the 3 of them need to be purchased now because we don't have enough for every fire station. And without getting into lengthy, unless you want me to give you further information, but the ISO requires, in order to rate a fire station even from a 10 to a 9, which is the lowest rating for a fire department, you have to have a Class A engine in that fire station, and that fire station has to be using that fire engine for response in that jurisdiction. If you don't have a Class A engine, they don't rate the station.
Motion to approve. Motion 1.
Do we have a second?
A second.
All right, we've got two citizens. Mr. Chris Russell.
Do I have to yield my time to him, sir?
Hey, I'm not Steve Cushman. I'm not going to push you out of the way, Chief.
We welcome
I
you back
respect
up.
you.
We welcome you back up if you need to.
Chris,
Nicole's writing fiercely.
and I know Billy's looking at me. I think we all agree we need to have great equipment. Let me be clear on something. I proposed the increase of the public safety on the 1 cent sales tax on that committee. That was my personal proposal, that we increase it. We had been told that we needed a firehouse, and we needed a firehouse closer to Wakulla Gardens, and we were told in there that it was hard to get people into those houses by the banking industry because of the fire rating, and we need a firehouse closer. And I think that is a true statement. I think that is a concern. As far as moving forward with $800,000 worth tonight, when the 1 cent sales tax has not been voted back in, I would say that's probably premature. I think last meeting we had a consensus. Everyone was saying one truck, everyone could buy off on it. It's a tricky situation. It really is, because we want our firemen to have everything they can need and want out there. I personally am looking at the firehouse thinking, golly, I've seen what they were living in. I'd like to see them get out of it. My concern is, if we spend this $800,000, and as I understand, $500,000, we've got it sitting there, and then we're going to finance the others. We're financing on the future that's unknown, and that's where I have the concern. Maybe you can modify it and get your fire engine tonight, and then move forward on getting that firehouse, which is going to help the citizens of Wakulla Gardens, because they're the ones that are paying the extra fire tax, and they're the ones that are going to be voting on the 1 cent sales tax. So if we're going to be trying to get those folks to vote for it, then we probably need to be helping them out a little bit. It's a lot of money going forward right now, $800 grand. I'm not going to get into Chief's business. That's the Chief's business. They do it however they want. I'm telling you, as an outsider looking in, $800,000, that's half of a year of the 1 cent sales tax money that we're committing. We can vote on the 1 cent sales tax in August. That's only 6 months. Unless we have to have these within the next 180 days, I would recommend you postpone till after that. If you feel you have to have one, if you have to have a truck, go ahead and get a truck now, and start moving forward with that firehouse and showing Wakulla Gardens we love you down there. It's a sticky situation for you to be in. You want to help the fire department, you want to help the citizens, and we want to see the 1 cent sales tax. God bless you for the job you're doing, because this is a hard one here, but at $800,000 and half a year's worth reserve on that 1 cent sales tax, me personally, I'd be waiting 182 days and hope it passed on the primary. Thank y'all for what you're doing. Thanks, Chief, for bringing it up.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Bill Russell.
Is the 1 cent sales tax referendum the primary or the general?
General.
So
General.
it's not on the August. Okay, thank you.
So why would we,
According to what the legislature brings forth, they're getting ready to possibly change that. Right.
it's 2 sets of rules.
Good evening. One thing, I'm speaking as a citizen, but then I also would like to speak as a fire chief of a department that's going to be negatively impacted here. So if I go over by 3 minutes, please give me a little bit of slack. My opinion is you need to vote this down, and you need to tell the fire chief to go get a set of specs for an engine like Wakulla needs, and then bid it out to at least 2 manufacturers, and then buy it. Last year, we said go ahead and buy one. David was talking about that it had a cracked frame. We had to buy one. You guys said go ahead and buy one. I like bidding them out. I know that it's very popular for people to go get a truck and then get the specs from it and then bid it out on that so that only one truck fits it. But I think you need to make the specs a little bit looser so that the bid's more real. The purchase of the 3 trucks, it's just not necessary right now. And like Chris was talking about, and I didn't know he was going to talk, the 1 cent sales tax, just to spend it before we have it in our hand, I'm afraid that the citizens are going to say, that's not really good, you know. David's playing from the budget hearings last year was let's buy an engine. And then in a year or two or whatever, we buy an engine. And we keep on until we have a much newer fleet. The truck to be financed is $390,000, but when you throw the finance charges in, it goes to $433,000. That $43,000 could go towards Billy Langston, a tanker pumper, to go down to Smith Creek, because like Chief Morgan said, if you don't roll out of there with something that counts as an engine, it doesn't count as you being there. And Billy's going to always take his tanker. He's never going to take an engine. We need to buy him something that fits the needs of Smith Creek, just like that. And another thing, this is just a get by now, but the ISO doesn't set any age limit on a fire engine. If a fire engine can be 50 years old, but if it passes pump test and it carries the listed equipment, then it's a fire engine. That's all there is to it. The age doesn't matter one bit in the world. And I've got an engine with 11,000 miles, and it's 19 years old, and it passes pump test and everything. I really don't even want a new engine because I think it'd be wasteful. And the real cost to maintain our fleet isn't in these old trucks that the volunteers are driving. The real cost is in the pay guys' trucks. Now, they run more than us, so it's going to cost more. But like Chief Morgan's talking about that 1994 truck that had to be replaced, or it hasn't been replaced yet, but it was parked too close to Pygott's store, and it melted, and we had to get rid of it. And if it had been a brand new truck, it wouldn't have made any difference. It'd still be melted. We'd gotten rid of it. And the engine 12, the main truck that runs all the time, that big truck you see, it suffered a lot of expensive damage when it was driven into a field while extinguishing a grass fire, and it sucked embers up into the air intake and to the air filter. The air filter burned, parts went up through the turbo, and then right on up into the engine, and that cost a lot of money to fix. So you can't say that our old trucks are hurting us. That's the newest truck, and we ruined it all. Well, we didn't ruin it, but it took a lot to fix it. And Chief says in this thing, I'm just taking out of what he gave you guys, that it take $30,000 to put my engine, my old Mack, in service. I wasn't even aware that it was out of service. And Tony, the mechanic, he told me that it failed pump test, and it failed pump test because of a suction leak, and that's usually in a ball valve, and the ball valves are easy to rebuild or replace. They're easy. Chief Morgan says it'll take $30,000 to repair or restore. Well, it doesn't need restoring, just repairing. And says also that there's not been a spare engine. Panacea has been without an engine 2 times, and I called them up and said, come get mine. And they came down there, so their engine was in the shop 3 or 4 days, and they kept mine, then they brought it back. Happened a couple of different times. And the plan that's presented, I read it online, it hurts everybody protected by Coastal Volunteer Fire Department. It hurts everybody in Panacea, everybody in Ocklawaha Bay. The Mack engine that he wants to sell, and probably couldn't get $5,000 for it. When the ISO was here last time, they said, you got a spare engine, but you only get 1 point for a spare engine. That's out of 100 points. You get 1 point. And he said, what you need to do is make that a service company, and you get 5 points for a service company. And I went and we bought Captain Elliott helped me. We got all the equipment a few months ago to make it a service company, and try to get the maximum points we could get. And now we're just going to take it away for no reason. It hadn't cost any money. There's no maintenance fees associated. And I'm going to tell you, we've got to do better than we're doing. In this package that Chief Morgan did for you, it talks about $5,000 for the transmission on my main truck. And Tony repaired the transmission computer and said it should last just as long as the first one did, which was 19 years. But he serviced the truck while he had it. And if Tony was here, you could ask him. When he serviced that truck, he had filters on there that Crawfordville Auto and Tire put on there in the summer of 2013. That truck was 2.5 years without getting serviced. And the only reason it got serviced now was because it tore up. If it hadn't broke down, it probably would not be. I took it to Crawfordville Auto and Tire. They serviced it. The next year, I asked Chief Morgan if I could get it serviced, and the answer was no. And nothing's ever happened since then. That was the end of it. 2.5 years. I bet nobody in this room probably has a vehicle that they drove 2.5 years without getting it serviced. And something's got to be done to tighten up how we treat these fire trucks. And you also mentioned that truck had been in salt water, but it hadn't. When we've had high water incidents, one, we had that big truck that we bought from Tallahassee. The other one, I used the Mack truck. And we don't have high water incidents every year. And also mentions here about the manufacturer of the engine being out of business. And that's true. Gator is out of business. But Gator builds cabinets. You buy a Kenworth frame, and then you buy a Cummins engine, and then you buy Allison transmission and a Darley pump, and all that stuff goes together to in that frame, and then the manufacturer builds cabinets around it to keep everything. And you can see, I gave you this ISO sheet, this is the equipment for all the different stuff. Like my Mac, the service company, you look up through there, SCs, you won't see where a SC has to carry 1 gallon of water or 1 inch of hose. That truck's just sitting there saving ISO points for my citizens, and we want to get rid of it. It makes 0 sense. It's not going to save the county $100, whatever it is, to insure one and fill it up with fuel a couple times a year. I hope I'm not bad over my time. Y'all have any questions? I'll be glad.
Quite a bit, but we think it's important. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, just a statement. This is a public record that he just put in front of you. Had I known I was going to be personally attacked by management style, I would have changed my way of I was presenting it. Let me say just one thing, that there are a lot of lies in this piece of paper. I will call them misunderstandings, if you wish. A lot of this was communicated to meetings that the gentleman doesn't attend, that are scheduled every monthly on a regular schedule. But that being said, this is not about me. I don't get paid any extra for new fire trucks. I don't get paid any extra, evaluated any different if I put a new fire truck or don't put a new fire truck at a fire station. It's my responsibility to make sure that more than one person responds to a house fire when there's people trapped inside that house. Having 2 fire trucks there is not going to get any more people on the scene. We need to have the people that go to the scene. We also need to have a reliable piece of equipment. When they turn the batteries on, it starts up and it goes. I don't think anybody at your table or my table drives a vehicle that is 32 years old. We don't rely on that. These estimates for the repairs came from our mechanic, not from me. The ISO rating, if Chief Russell was correct, I will apologize, because the service credit I did not think was that high, but I will reaffirm that and get back with you on that. Anything else, I will discuss with Mr. Edwards about what I did and haven't done, because my recollection of the service of that truck, with the only station in the county that has a different code on their door because they don't want anybody else in it, is a completely different than what he says. But if you have any questions specifically about the trucks, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, sir. Discussion.
Well, that's it. Yep.
That's all the citizens.
Yep. I'll have discussion, but I'll wait for a little bit.
Okay. Well, I've made it clear that I'm not for financing. I'm okay with approving buying a truck if that's what we come to.
A truck.
A truck. We had that in our budget. We had that in the plan for a truck, and I could be comfortable with that. I'm certainly not going to be comfortable with committing those 1-cent sales tax monies with the risk of jeopardizing whether or not the citizens are going to see that as we've budgeted for one truck, we planned for one truck, and now we buy 3 trucks, and I'm afraid that if that's perceived as we're being irresponsible with that money, they may put us in check and say, well, we're going to just put you in check and stop that money if you're not going to stop it yourself. And so I think that we've got just a little bit of time until November, until that election, and it makes sense to me to let's hold off on that, and then we can always revisit that down the road.
If I could make one other correction, and I would like to apologize to Chris Russell. I really was giving my boss credit because he signs my paycheck, so I always give him credit first about changing the allocation for the penny sales tax. But if, Mr. Edwards, if I'm not mistaken, the fire station is not affected by this. The fire station is still in the plan for next year. There's 2 different issues for building the fire station. This does not replace the fire station funding in the future years.
Very good. And I'd like to hear more about the truck that Chief Russell spoke of that he would be losing. And you and I spoke about this today, but just for the record, if we're going to auction that, we're going to receive $5,000, which to me seems, if we've spent very little money maintaining it, seems like it's better just to keep it there. Keep it there as a service truck, and yeah, it can pump if necessary, but if we're not relying on that, and if we're getting more ISO points for that, we can carry personnel, we can carry equipment. Why not keep it there? The $5,000 does very little benefit for that.
You make a very good point, and if his fact is accurate about the point, I agree with you. My point is that we're trying to replace worn-out Class that's not fit to be a Class A engine.
But you're right. That is something that we will definitely look at.
Yeah,
and that makes sense. That makes sense.
I hope we'll definitely take a look at that.
I have a different viewpoint on this I want to share.
You ready?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Share. In my viewpoint on this is public safety is very important to me. You know, I don't know what price you can put on someone's life. It's very important that we have reliable equipment that we can rely on. It has been said tonight that, and identified already previously, that we need both newer, reliable engines. Plus, we also have a need to have a better firehouse. But if we had a choice between the firehouse and the engines, I would lean upon the engines first, because if you've got a brand new firehouse and somebody's house is on fire, that brand new firehouse ain't gonna help you. You know, you need to replace your engines first and be sure that you've got good, reliable engines to go there. It's been said tonight to wait till November. Well, if we wait till November, but we have an issue between now and November to where one of our vehicles breaks down, and then we have a loss of life because that vehicle broke down because we played politics more or less with things and wait until November, that's not a situation I want our county to be in either. You know, and it comes down to me, public safety and liability, and we have a responsibility to have reliable equipment. At the prison where I work, y'all know I work at the prison in Carabel. We had an incident happen the other day where we had someone that needed emergency response. The ambulance that showed up to pick that person up broke down whenever it got there. The person was having cardiac arrest, and the ambulance broke down when it got there. It had to wait another 40-something minutes for another ambulance to drive all the way from the other end of the county to pick that person up and tow the other ambulance out of the way to tow that person to Tallahassee. I was thinking to myself the whole time, that's not a situation that I want our county to be in, to where whenever our equipment is called upon, that our equipment breaks down or is not sufficient. So I'm very supportive of us getting them the equipment. I have to rely upon David, plus I have to rely upon the chief for them to tell me what their need is. I'm not a fireman. I'm not the person on the ground. I have to rely upon the people on the ground and the people who are coming up with the plan in order to tell me they're able to do it, and they're presenting the plan to purchase the vehicles and to get it. And so I would be supporting this tonight.
Very good. Is that all?
Yes.
Chair.
I had this same discussion with David today, and I agree with Commissioner Thomas on some points, and some points I don't agree with him. But at one point in time, we were going to buy an engine a year, and that was okay. It seems like now that we may pick up 3 engines, but we're going to do some leasing on those 2. So my question to our administrator, is that going to change the budget? And his answer was no, because if it was going to increase the budget or just basically increase the budget that we're operating under, then I would have been against that. he tells me that we have the money to do this. I personally don't mind doing financing because it allows you to do other things with your money that may be more important in the use of your money. I also ask him, it's always important to me that we get the lowest price on our products. And I ask him how he goes about soliciting bids for products like this. And his answer was basically that we buy our equipment under a state contract. So it's not that we go out and pick and choose on who we're going to buy an engine from. We buy it through a state contract. And I will support this, but only sort of like on one condition, that somehow we work out a way of accommodating that engine in Ocklackney Bay. I guess you call that the MAC. Is that the MAC? I will support this if we can support keeping the MAC in some sort of service. And I really don't.
For the MAC too.
I really don't like that all that much. I don't like that because of repair costs and whatever. But I'll yield to the fact that you can operate that machine. Well, that's fine. I depend on you to be able to operate that within our system. But I will go along with this if you can work that out.
I wanted to reiterate again there is logic to waiting till November as far as the monetary aspect of it, but to me it's just the life safety of it, that if we had an incident between now and then that would have been benefited by one of the newer rigs, like I said, I don't know what price could be put on a life. So I'm going to always lean and decide to support public safety if I can.
All right, and also to make this clear, okay, if you do proceed, you're right, but these trucks, once ordered, they're 8 to 9 months out.
Yes.
So that they between now and then it won't do us any good either.
But if we was ordering them now, they would be here by November. But if we wait till November, they'll be here sometime next year.
So yes, I just wanted to clarify that. So
Okay.
if we had something happen, you said we're on fire truck.
I thought these trucks were available now, and that was the move.
Two of the commercial, the smaller trucks are sitting on the lot. They need to, and how the state bid works is, you're right. I mean, I'm a part of the government. I can't purchase unless it's competitive bidding. They have done the competitive bidding, and we pick off the bid list, and then we add. It's like buying a car with no radio or no antenna with it. You add on what you want, or in our case, what we need, and they will have to add that equipment on it. They've said 4 to 6 weeks when we will have those 2 trucks. The other one will be built from the ground up.
Yeah. One other thing that I was talking about also, we were going to do a 1-year, 2-year, 3-year. I requested of David that we can give him, or I propose to give him the 3 trucks as he proposes, but not to come back in that 3-year period and want another truck. I'll yield to him on the 3 trucks, but if you have a truck breakdown, that's a different deal. But I don't want to expand that fleet for 3 years because that's what we've pretty much agreed to.
We can go along with that, Chief. Not a problem. Not Chief.
Well, everybody understands what I'm talking about.
I understand where you're coming from, Commissioner.
The Chief is going to have a different opinion, but we can do that.
Yeah, we'll buy 2 or 3 every year, but no. In reality, we've addressed the Class A. We have a 1996 aerial truck that sooner or later will need replaced, and that costs as much as all 3 of these trucks. And I'm not coming back next year. Believe me, I'm not going to bring you any more new truck proposals.
If we get these 3 trucks, is that going to have us good for a few years?
For the Class A pumpers, yes, but we still have first-line trucks that are, the average age, I think I put it in the agenda item, is 20 and a half years now, and this is going to reduce it to 18 and a half years or something of that nature.
Unless you have a breakdown, or you have a truck that happens to have a disaster, I would ask you not to come back, because that's why I'm going to approve this tonight.
Well, as I said, you won't see me bringing back another proposal for...
I understand where it's coming from. He understands what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, I have a question following up on Jerry's comment there. We were given our infrastructure plan that included buying 1 truck for $390,000 this year, and I believe it had $36,000 for next year to go toward truck purchases, and it phased that amount out for the next few years. If it may not be exactly that, but it was a smaller amount.
I'd have to look at it, but I think there was some lease lease payments for another truck or two in there.
So how is this affecting anything else? This is coming from the 1 cent sales tax.
1 cent sales tax, just the vehicle portion
But
of
is
it.
this affecting ambulance purchases, fire trucks? Because you had a plan that only had
No,
$390,000.
I ran all that. It doesn't affect that. The only
Does
thing
it
that
change timeline, any of that?
only thing that if it does affect just is if for some reason the 1 cent sales tax was not renewed,
Mm-hmm.
then the idea is to be able to is we would take those funds next year and say, okay, we need to pay the fire truck off. So that would eliminate us from buying an ambulance next year. You'd have to take all those funds in there. But if it's approved, no, it won't affect any ambulances purchases or sheriff vehicle purchases.
So when you presented that plan to us, you had every dollar accounted for. So this other $500,000 that we're coming up with now was sitting somewhere.
It was in our reserves. It was in our existing reserve, and also what we didn't spend this year
Reserve in the 1 cent sales
flowed
tax.
in that reserve in the 1 cent sales tax. Yes, and it's a combination of the $390 plus the reserves that's in the 1 cent sales tax vehicle. And also, I've ran this out, and this plan, it works. Us still buying all the other equipment, it works and keeps everything in line, and also gives us a reserve at the same time.
Okay.
And I'll be glad to share that with you.
Howard.
I'll let Randy go because I'm going to be long.
Okay.
I'm not going to be long. My position is basically, I'm a civil engineer. That's what I do every day. I know how to do it. I'm not a fire chief. Okay, David's the county administrator in charge of our budget I think he's done a good job the last several years making sure we don't go broke. So if he says that we can afford it, it fits in the budget, I'll take his word for it. I have to defer to the chief, for he says, he's right, he doesn't get anything if somebody gets a new truck. He doesn't get a commission check when they buy a truck. So if he honestly believes this is what they need, then that's fine. I told David what I didn't want it was to be like the MSBU and go to bat, no offense, and say we got to have this, and then come back later and say, well, we could actually get by with less than that. I said, is this the bottom line? This is what y'all need to operate effectively? And he said yes, so I'm going to support it.
Howard.
Thank you. I'm sorry I'm going to be a little long with this,
Take your
Mr.
time.
Chairman. So I'll start off with, just because we have the money doesn't mean we have to spend it. There's no way that I can vote for what's on the table right now. So it might be a 3-2 vote with Chairman and myself. But let me go through the reasons why I can't do it. I've heard everyone's reasons why they can, and yours, why you were concerned. And let me start with the, when we're speaking to staff, we all go to our pre-meeting conference and speaking with staff, and if we only had money for one fire truck, which is the one we really need, okay? I couldn't get an answer for that, okay? That concerns me, because in any situation, no matter that you may want 3 fire trucks, you should be able to say, this is the one that is most needed, and this is the reason why, and this is my second one, and this is my third one. So that concerned me. The one that I'm most concerned about, and what I started with, was the Rosenbauer. And that's at Station 12. And so I went online and I went to Rosenbauer. And I called them up. They're the second largest fire truck manufacturer. I believe our truck may have come out of South Dakota. They called Wyoming first. County will get the bill. But I thought it was worth it. And I said, how long should a truck that we purchased from you last? And they said, because we bought this truck on the advice that this was like the cream of the crop. This truck was going to last us. And the answer I got was a very good answer. I said, well, it depends how you drive it. Well, I said, okay, given all different circumstances, we got our truck delivered here in January of 2009. 10, I believe. How long should it last? Well, 15 years minimum. Some companies, whatever's going on, they can make them last longer than 25 years. After 25 years, some companies reduce them to their second out truck. I said, well, ours is 6 years. So something's wrong. And I don't know what that wrong is, but something's wrong. If we've broken this chassis 2 or 3 times, something's wrong. If we're spending a lot of money on service, something is wrong. And I need to get the answers before I would vote to spend taxpayer dollars on fire trucks, especially 3 fire trucks. I can't go down that route. We do have a mechanic. He gives us, and I don't know him other than him appearing at the, the board here as far as his mechanic. I'm assume he has the qualifications to do the trucks and the certifications and things like that. But how much would it cost to produce this, to fix up this truck, or how much would it cost to fix up this? Well, $30,000. Well, $20,000 or $65,000, whatever the number was. Sort of like a rough estimate. I'd like to see what I'm fixing, what it's going to cost me, and I'd also like to see 2 or more bids or quotes to how this money is going to be spent. And I think we all need to see that before we say, let's go ahead and order a fire truck or fire trucks. I think if we have to order a fire truck, the truck that I think that we need to replace is the one that's in Medart. Is that Station 5? I'm not sure what the numbers, but I think they desperately need a truck. I think the other trucks, for the meantime, until we get some kind of answers, need to be serviced and serviced properly. And we need to know what it's going to fix, what it's going to cost to fix these things up. Some of the poking around I did today, it's not any better than just pulling a number and say, well, it's going to cost $20,000 or it's going to cost $35,000, but they were a lot less than those numbers. I think that we've budgeted for 1 truck. I think we should not even use all of that money, because I think the truck that Medart Station needs could be bought for, I think we have the price of that truck, just the $250,400 or something in that area. And I think we need to get the answers. I think we have to look at what was actually spent on actual truck repair for those trucks that we're thinking of replacing. And until we have those answers, and I'd like to have the clerk of the court help us identify those invoices of what we spent, how we're going about it, get quotes on what it would take to fix, and get the information in before we go and spend almost $1 million of taxpayer money that we need. That we always want good equipment and we always need this stuff. We're always going to need the next truck, and we're always going to need the next sheriff's deputy car. That's a given, okay? But we also have an obligation to treat the taxpayers' tax dollars with as much responsibility as we can, and that's why I cannot vote at this time. I don't have the information to make that vote at this time, and if I was going to vote, I'd only be voting for 1 truck.
Tell us about the Rosenbauer. That's not scheduled to be replaced, is it?
It's not being replaced. It'll be handed down to another unit.
That's engine 12 now.
That's engine 12. That's the one we call the career engine, the ones the career drive. It was bought in 2009 for $335,000.
It was delivered here in 2010, January.
That we are buying a different style of pump. That pump has been rebuilt 5 times since I've been here. That's not a maintenance issue.
On that engine?
Yes, sir. Because it's a power takeoff type of pump for a Class A engine, and it just does not work. People at Rosenbauer are going to tell you they're the biggest. They're not. I've been around for quite a while, and Rosenberg has a good reputation, but I will also tell you that this is Wakulla County, and you guys know the roads we drive on every day. If somebody needs a fire truck on a dirt road, we take it down the dirt road. And that's, you know, we can't afford to pave all the roads, and I bet they don't sell a whole lot to counties like us. And yes, the truck will be in service 10 years from now with no problems, but it won't be, if we leave it as the first run career engine, it won't last that long.
And these proposed trucks, are they going to be any better equipped to handle the abuse of our dirt roads than what you have now?
I don't think you can get a truck that is going to be dirt road proof. I started to say Wakulla County proof, and I don't want that to look, you know, I live here, I love this place. I don't want it to be that kind of situation. But the challenge to work on our roads, I know that the truck that we're getting built, and you can buy a brand new BMW and have problems with it. I'm not guaranteeing you that, but the quality of this truck is unmatched. It's the top 3 manufacturers in the United States, and Rosenbauer would not be in that.
The 3 trucks, just so the public is clarified, because it does leave a little confusion. You're going to replace a 1984 Mack truck.
Yes, sir.
You're going to replace a 1987 Mack truck.
Yes, sir.
You're going to replace a 1994 truck that is already gone. It's not even
Correct.
here because it was burned at Pigus.
Yes, sir.
When they responded to a fire. So the vehicles being replaced are an 84, an 87, and a 94 that's already been, the county's got checked for damage. It's not even in Wakulla County anymore.
Correct.
Okay.
And Chief, I mean, I'm going to echo some of Howard's comments. I mentioned at the last meeting that I just didn't feel that we have the facts. Randy, I hear your comment about deferring to the experts. I acknowledge you're the expert. There's no doubt about it. But I know you're not going to just vote on civil engineering matters, and I'm not going to just vote on mortgage matters. We've been required by the voters when they elected us to double check these things and put the checks and balances in place. At the last meeting, I stated that we didn't have any maintenance records, we didn't have any repair costs, we don't know, you know, what we're looking at. We can certainly trust you, but if that's all that's required is just to trust you and not double check, then we really don't need to be here. You guys can just run everything by yourself. I think the citizens expect us to make sure that we're getting the best bang for the buck. We don't doubt your knowledge. We don't doubt the commitment for any of these guys. We don't doubt, like Commissioner Harden said, the public safety. Ideal public safety is if we have brand new firehouses within 5 miles of every home, and we have brand new trucks in there, and we have a paid crew in there. But we know that we can't afford that. So our job is to find the balance between the best maximum safety and what the citizens are willing to afford. I think you've added about 10 lines to your presentation from last week that doesn't really give me any information about what kind of maintenance cost has been spent. You tell me $30,000 to restore it, but what does that mean? And I don't see any estimates of that. I don't see any data to back that up. I think that we're being irresponsible if we don't require that from you. That way, when we say yes, then we can absolutely show the citizens that this is what needs to be done based on facts, not just based on the fact that Chief Morgan is a good guy and he's knowledgeable and I just go along with what he says. I think we have an obligation to know that information before we make a decision that's going to put us in debt and going to spend $890,000.
In my own defense, I don't want people to think that I just accept whatever he says and don't look into the issue.
I know you don't.
It is possible that we look at the same facts and come to different conclusions, though. So I don't want the public to think that David said do this or Chief said do that. I read the whole mitigation thing. I don't think many people did that. So I do look into the agenda items. I don't just take what David and the Chief say and they say, Randy, you need to vote for this. That's not how I operate. I just want to make sure people know that.
Just to follow up on what the chairman said, because we did have a conversation like this, and I thought I prepared a much different agenda item to give you a different outlook. Some of the figures that you asked for are there. Some of them are zero. And I told you up front, the repair cost on a 1984 Mack is zero because it doesn't run. We would have to rebuild the front end, rebuild the pump, and rebuild the transmission. And my mechanic tells me whatever that figure was I put in there would cost a great amount of money. And until we tear that pump apart and see part for part it, if we can get the parts, gentlemen, I'm not trying to poor mouth you, but you have staffed this department with one 40-hour staff member, that's me. I don't know a pump. I don't know how much it costs to put those gaskets in the pump. Do I pay that mechanic to tear the pump down to see exactly what's wrong with it and say, how much is it? And then we say, nope, we're not going to do it. You know, that's a lot of man-hours to do that. I don't know how else to get that cost. And I'm saying the same thing. My young, lovely wife, I bought her a used car last year because I took her 2009, who I thought was in great shape, to the mechanic. He said, you might want to go look at another car because it's going to cost you about $2,000 to get this one fixed. And I thought, I'm not going to put $2,000 in a 2009 car. I bought her a 2015 car because it made financial sense to me to upgrade it and have a car that we can rely on. And that's what I'm trying to do with these fire trucks.
Howard?
Yeah, and, you know, as I said, for me, I don't have the facts that I need to do this vote. We were given advice, just like we're given advice now, when we bought the Rosenbauer. And that advice was, you're buying the cream of the crop, okay, from the second largest fire engine manufacturer in the country. Okay? This is your quality vehicle. Okay? So we trust that. Okay? We trust those kind of statements. But when we get statements that we don't have the backup for how much does it really cost to fix something? If it costs us $20,000 and we don't have to expend $250,000, that might be the route to go, especially acting before the 1-cent sales tax is passed. So I'm not going to beat this to death, but that's where I am.
One additional point for me, and then we'll vote. Chief, put yourself in my situation. We heard tonight that at least one fire truck hadn't had the oil changed in over 2 years. Okay, you could help put us in a better footing if you'll provide the maintenance records and show maybe 12 that you're planning on moving and the other 2 that you're planning on replacing. At least those 3 trucks, so we can show. Because if there's no maintenance being done, if we're not doing what we're supposed to, how am I supposed to stand up to the public out there when they say, Ralph, you're buying new trucks because they're not being maintained properly, not simply because we need new trucks. And I don't know the answer to that, and the reason I don't know the answer is because I haven't been given that. And that's all I'm asking, is we need to be given the data. I would like to know, I'd like to see a folder for each of the maintenance records for each of these trucks. I would like to see estimates for what it's going to cost to restore these trucks, or you know, whatever needs to be done to get the pump back in place. I think that we need that information in order to make this decision.
I hear you, Commissioner, and it goes along with it, but Station Coastal 7 is a unique situation with me.
So you can prove that to us by showing us the maintenance records on each of the trucks. Simple.
I can't prove the problem that exists, why it went 2.5 years, but I will certainly do that. Again, what job do you want me not to do while I go do that for you?
Sir.
Commissioner, I didn't say that with disrespect. I said that with, there's only so many times an hour in the day, and we have only so much staff. And I try to do everything. This has been a big issue.
I'm not going to spend $750,000 because you don't have time. I can tell you that right now. Because we need to make time. We need to find time before we start spending that kind of money.
I said I wouldn't disrespect you, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to table.
We already got a motion.
We've got a motion on the table. You had another comment?
I have one more comment. I'm going to vote for this, but I'm going to vote for it with a condition. Can I vote based on the condition?
Depends on the motion.
Well, I'd like to add.
I don't know what your condition.
Okay, I would like to add the condition to this that we leave the fire truck. What's the name of that one? Yeah.
And that's one of the ones Andy just asked. Chief, before we replace it, he said yes.
Well, sir,
what is your Mac? What's the name of that Mac?
Caroline.
It's engine
Daddy, Mac Daddy.
7, but it's run as a service company, but nobody's ever worked for that. Service company.
That's okay. You can do it.
Service company. I will amend my. I'll add to the motion.
Well, you need to ask him to modify his motion.
May I modify your motion?
To keep, I don't think anybody has a problem with it.
Engine 7.
So all you're doing now is instead of, you're gonna replace the engine still, just keep the old one.
Yes, sir. I was not trying to go against what that man said.
I understand.
The
If it
truck will
turns out-
stay
if it
at its
turns-
home, so they can have that down there. I need 3 Class A pumpers in addition to what we have right now.
That's fine, I'll amend my motion.
And your second?
I second.
Okay.
I'll make a substitute
Richard-
motion.
Yes.
Richard seconded it.
Okay.
Yeah, I seconded. I'll
Okay.
second it.
Okay, here we go.
So we're correct now.
Hold on.
I'd like to make a substitute motion to buy 1 fire truck for the Medoc Fire Station and obtain the information that I thought we were going to have going into this meeting on the maintenance of the trucks.
Okay, substitute motion, so if we get a second on that, we would vote. Do we have a second? I'm gonna pass the gavel, 2 meetings in a row, and I'll second that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Is there any, what's the citizens, it's a substitute
additional-
motion.
Which motion do you address first?
The substitute
We've got to
motion.
address the substitute
If Howard's
first.
substitute motion fails, I'm the chairman now.
Carry on.
If Howard's, and I suggested Howard to do this, I told him I wasn't gonna support him, but I wanted somebody, just for Heather's edification, to do a substitute motion. I love these. So anyway, if his motion doesn't pass, we go back to the original motion. I don't know if I have to give Ralph the gavel back then, or only at the end.
Technically, you could keep it.
I'll keep it then, we're gonna move this along. Is there any more discussion?
You're the chairman right now.
Any more discussion on Howard's substitute motion, which is to buy 1 truck?
Well, my only thing about the 1 truck would be if the need has been identified for 3, and we only buy 1, we're gonna be back here again pretty soon.
Very simple, just vote against his motion, then we'll go back to the
So-
original
so-
motion and be over with.
So you're convinced that we've been given enough data, and this is not a matter of trusting these guys.
Yes.
I understand, but we can't just rely on just trusting them. We have to be able to show that we have those facts and we have that data, and we're comfortable in our mind. And when we have that data, we may vote 5-0 to go with that because we have something to hang our hat on. I'm
Right.
just not going to vote on something that I can't be 100% sure that he's provided the information. What if we vote on this and people say they haven't been maintaining the trucks and you guys just bought them 3 brand new trucks? And that's the last thing I'll say about it.
Have they been maintaining the trucks? Okay, thank you. All right. If we have the substitute motion, all for the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Motion. All against?
Aye.
Fails. All right, now back to the original motion, which is to approve the agenda item. All for the motion, or is there any more discussion? All for the motion? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Pass 3-2. Brandy, you get that?
Thank you, Chief. All righty. How about a public hearing, item number 6?
Let's go to a less controversial.
Your first public hearing item, Mr. Chairman, is to request board approval to conduct a public hearing and adopt an ordinance that amends Chapter 23 of the county code pertaining to parks and recreation.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any citizens? Discussion. I have one item. There's a provision in here that states that the county administrator makes the final decision on any waivers, and that cannot be appealed to the board. This is another one of those issues where I believe we're relinquishing our responsibility. I can't look a citizen in the eye and say I do not have the ability to even entertain or consider your request because I have voted away my authority to do so.
Could you bring it, he could bring it back as an agenda item as a commissioner, couldn't he? He just, that citizen couldn't go to David and David says, no, you don't meet the standard. They could bring it to you and you could bring it up as an agenda
I
item.
don't
couldn't
think
you?
so, not the way that's proposed.
I don't think so either.
No, that's not the way it was intended. It was intended as Commissioner Thomas is understanding it, that it's a final decision. Now, it doesn't mean you're permanently relinquishing that control. It means you'd have to change your ordinance in order to come back to a case-by-case basis. I'd like to stress, though, that doing waivers on a case-by-case basis, depending on who's standing at the podium, is not something I advise. You need to have a set of criteria that's applied uniformly and equally, and that's what we've tried to do here. Now, if you don't like the criteria that are in here, you guys, as policymakers, can give us different criteria to enforce, but right now, what it says is that waivers are granted for other governments.
And if I could jump in, I discussed this with Heather today, if I could make a recommendation, that we could put in a criteria that if someone is doing an event that is open and free to the public, they're not charging anything, they're not making any money, they're not charging for booths there, and they're serving the public, they're a nonprofit organization, whatever criteria, then, you know, I think we ought to have some kind of mechanism to have a waiver like that in place. I think she agreed that that is something that would be acceptable as long as we put that criteria in there, that it's free and it's open to the public and it's simply serving the public.
Let's use the example that when Jenny came up here the other day for the, whatever she came up here for, and asked for a waiver. Now, of course, this new ordinance takes care of that, but what was the event she was doing?
The Martin Luther King celebration.
Okay, which was, again, not raising any money, they weren't charging her for food or nothing like that?
Correct.
And you, I mean, I'm fine with that. Are y'all fine with that?
What I would
No,
recommend,
Jessica's
I mean,
not.
we
Dave, you
can,
fine with it?
I think we'd want to flesh out those criteria so you guys can think about them and run it through your mind. I mean, we can always bring back that amendment if you guys wanted us to adopt this, and then we could bring back an amendment to add, you know, an additional set of criteria for fee waivers.
Well, what I'm worried about is opening the floodgates to somebody saying, well, I want to have a fundraiser here, or I want to have a meeting of cat lovers, whatever.
I think we
We want to go to the community center, and we want to have a meeting. We want to use your facility. We're a nonprofit. We're not going to be generating money. We're going to have 100 people come down here and talk about cats or what dogs, whatever. Somebody's got to pay to clean the place up.
That's some of where I was thinking about, that some of these events you have a dolly from Parks and other people from Parks will be down there helping to set up, plus they'll be helping clean up and everything, and that is a cost that the county does incur to assist a nonprofit.
I agree.
There.
What's the fee for a small gathering? Now we've changed to 75 people, right?
$25.
So, I mean, it's 25 bucks.
Where?
At this community center.
Community center.
It's 25 bucks. All right, and that, you know, we still got to pay a power bill, we got to pay a utility bill, we got to pay all this other stuff, so I'll leave my motion the way it is.
Well, I would also, like the chairman said, is he and I have talked about this as well, is we both kind of come from the same territory here, and I want you to understand, the last thing I want is to be the final person in this. The idea is that, you know, no matter who stands up here in front of you guys, you're going to pretty much give them the fee waiver. But I think he's right in the fact of, if we can bring back, and we'll commit to bring something back, that does allow those, like the Thanksgiving in the park and some of those events that don't have other ancillary things going on around it, that they may generate income from, then that becomes the criteria for us to build that around and try to strengthen it. Maybe we start small and then maybe progress it out, but I think we need to do something, because to charge the folks, like the Thanksgiving folks, I understand this, you know, I understand that, you know, the citizens wouldn't be able to use the park, but they're helping the citizenry. So I get that, and that's a...
I'll change my motion to table it then, until y'all bring something back.
Well, we got some other things in there that don't need to be tabled. That section, we need to bring that back.
What section is that?
Well, we've got other things in there, the fee, or the 75 persons, changing that from 35 to 75.
And I like that.
That's a
Yeah.
benefit.
That's what I'm saying. We'd like to do that
It is
and
a
bring this back,
benefit.
because it's not going to kill any deals between now and then.
We can bring back an amendment.
Yeah.
Changing
We'll just
it
bring
from,
back an amendment.
Bring back an amendment at a later time.
Yes.
But go ahead with this
Yes.
as it's written.
Yes.
Wouldn't be easier just
that's
to go ahead and
okay,
get
yeah.
done what you want to do done in one
Because
spot?
there's I'm sorry for interrupting, but I owe you something, you owe me something,
Go
right? So, you know, there's some really good things in here that help the people out.
Yes.
And if we pass this now, then those people will benefit, the community at large will benefit, and then we can come back and address the little tweaks that we need to do as far as the criteria.
Here's an
I
idea,
agree.
just an idea. In that particular area about who gets waivered, can we just just change the ordinance to say that criteria is set by resolution, so then we're going to come back and do a new ordinance?
That's a legal question.
I mean, I guess you could. Resolutions are supposed to be of temporary character.
No,
And,
no.
I mean, resolutions are also more difficult to track for the citizen. If they want to know what they need to show in order to have a waiver, it's difficult to do. I mean, we could potentially do it that way, but it's just as easy to do an ordinance.
All right, my motion stands then.
You had a second, right?
I think Richard seconded.
I'll second.
Very
And
good.
I think going from the 25 to the 75 is gonna help a lot of people.
Absolutely.
That number
25
will-
people, not dollars.
Yes, yeah, 25, 75. That will bring a lot of other organizations underneath that umbrella that will help them.
Great.
Very good.
Okay.
All right, further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Right, let's see, we scratched item number 8, so we'll go to number 9.
Motion to approve.
This agenda item is to request approval to conduct a
Randy
public
said
hearing and
strike
adopt
that.
an ordinance amending section 2.4 and creating section 6-34 of the Land Development Code pertaining to high-intensity petroleum operations.
Do we have a second?
Yes.
All right,
Howard reluctantly
any
second.
citizens? Discussion?
All these cat, nobody was frack, but anyway, go ahead.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
They're
Opposed?
all- they're all-
Passes 5-0.
They're all listening to Chuck over at the library.
Oh, is he giving a speech?
He's getting the talk tonight for the Saracena Garden Club.
Gotcha.
All right, let's see, no P and Z items. Next, we'll go to Commissioner Moore.
Okay, my agenda item is that, to make a change in the site plan requirement, I'm not asking to do away with the site plan requirement in prior development, but just to make a change, because in developing, you never know who your tenant is going to be. So if you put forward a site plan that's a complete site plan as the county has now, you may have to come back and change that and incur the expense. So, and as the gentleman mentioned earlier about the tree ordinance, evidently they had not read the analysis of this agenda item that I have. My analysis says, if approved, the amended ordinance will remove the requirement of a full site plan prior to clearing the site and replace it with the following. Prior to clearing a site, the owner-developer will provide a conceptual plan together with a boundary survey to include a significant tree survey. So the tree survey is still required in this agenda item. I don't know anybody, well, they may be, but certainly not me, would take down significant trees that are not within the footprint of the building. In addition to that, there would be, as you clear the site, there would be a 50-foot buffer between any residential areas. And also, you would provide, upon clearing the site, you would provide a soil stabilization, a silt fence plan, and a post-site maintenance bond. In other words, you can't go in there and clean the site and then just leave it to grow up in bushes. But there would be a maintenance bond posted to maintain the site, and that bond would be $100 per acre, or let's just say it's a 10-acre site. That would be a $1,000 bond to say that the person would keep it cleared to the county specs or whatever, but with a minimum of $500 if it were a smaller lot. But in no place does this say anything about taking down significant trees while you're clearing the site, and there is a requirement in this that you have a tree survey. So everything about the only thing basically you've done is just, we know who we're talking about here, and primarily my development of a site north of town. To do a full site plan on that property would be about $50,000. And then if my tenant mix were to change, then I've got to come back and alter the site plan. So it doesn't, it's just not the best way to do. And this doesn't affect the trees.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Option number 1?
Yes.
Do we have a second? No second? Hearing none, motion fails for lack of second. Next, county attorney, any items?
Nothing this evening, Mr. Chairman.
County administrator.
Did you go talk to Donnie? Did you ever talk to Mr. Sparkman about
Mineral rights?
the mineral rights?
You wasn't
Give me
here?
$1 then.
You were not here?
No, I didn't know if she went over to his office and told him.
Oh.
Yes, I did. I had a meeting with him last week.
Okay, I owe you $1.
And I was there, so I witnessed it. Yes, on March 10, we are currently planning a meeting at the community center of the Magnolia Gardens residents, primarily the ones in the first phase of our sewer project. And that will, we haven't set the time, but more than likely it'll be probably at 6 o'clock, probably 6 to 8.
And that's phase 4, correct?
No, that's the Wakulla Gardens. This is Magnolia Gardens.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And we'll get a map on all that.
Okay.
And also in phase 4, and it's not phase 4, it's Unit 4.
Unit 4.
I always get that wrong. Unit 4 Wakulla Gardens. That'll be on the 15th at the community center.
Now, David, you and I had talked about this because I've been getting some questions about when are these roads going to be paved. After the sewer goes in, which in portions of Magnolia Gardens, probably a year, they should have gravity sewer.
Right.
Okay? If the 1 cent sales tax passes, obviously that has to pass. Probably within a year or so after that, we're going to go ahead and pave those roads because they have sewer on them.
That's what we're going to bring to you guys, and what we're looking at is once the prices come back in our bids that we're going to be sending out, they will have paving and everything in it. If we need, for the grant purposes, if we need to put more folks on collection, we'll pull that out, and we're anticipating that, and that'll be where we'll come to you guys.
Same thing in Wakulla Gardens. Once sewer is put in, which we have a grant for sewer, in what unit?
Unit 4.
And that's it, though, right?
Well, no, there's another one that's pending right now. We're waiting on
once
that.
we get the gravity sewer in, most likely within a year those roads will be paved.
Yes.
Within a year after the sewer is installed.
Yes. And, also, Shell Point, the contractor has poured the slab. It's in its 28-day curing period. That was poured on Friday, so but we're hoping that he'll go ahead and move forward with installation of the docks while they're waiting for the push slab to cure. And as soon as he pushes the slab in, gets the docks in, we're going to start on the site work.
Sounds good.
That's it.
Citizens to be heard. Thank you. We have one. Alexandra Weiss.
Whoops. Anyway, I'm short. Alexandra Weiss, Buck Forest area. Looking forward to participating in the Animal Services Ordinance Workshop, and I'm glad to hear that the entire ordinance is being opened up for discussion. I would like to point out, as a friend has told me, that when you're looking at things and penalties and whatnot, you should be looking at the deed, not the breed, is a big part. I would like to commend Ivanhoe and her crew, have been super fantastic in assisting us with our challenges of a neighbor, and they're very responsive, very helpful, and just like working with them. Regarding, one of the good things about sitting here through the whole thing, regarding the parks, looking at events that you may be shutting down parts of parks and charging fees, please be cognizant of all your grant requirements. This county has a lot of land and water conservation fund, which is 6F, has a manual about yay thick, which definitely addresses events and fees, as well as FERDAP, and I believe there's some rec trails money in the county. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, discussion items. Howard, you want to kick us off?
Sure, Mr. Chairman, thank you. So, let me start off with the, you're all easy.
Good.
Sign ordinance, political signs, people's yards. At least feedback that I've been getting are people are asking me, and I don't know that I have the right answer for them. They say I should be able to put up as many signs in my yard as I want to put up. That's not what we passed.
I think it is.
It is.
It is?
For
Okay.
for
So,
residential.
for residential? So it doesn't matter what kind of square footage they end up putting out there?
I think that was the very discussion. I wasn't wanting to limit the
Remember my plate
person's,
tectonics?
Well, I just wasn't sure how that shook out.
Size, but I don't think there's limit on number, but I'd have to verify. I don't have it in
Well,
front of me.
could we just maybe take a look at that and see
Yeah.
what the correct answer is? And if there's a limit on size in residential, they've even asked or questioned that or were upset with that. That they
There's always
said
been
it's
a,
their
there's always
property
been a limit on size.
on residential.
Yes, and commercial. There's always been a limit on size.
Well,
Those are not new.
Maybe they're just becoming aware of it because we're discussing it here, but they're saying, at least the people that are coming to me, it's their property, they should be able to put up on their property whatever they want to put up. So,
Hard to argue with that.
I think the size, the size limit was 4 by 4, wasn't it? Wasn't that the biggest size was like 4 by 4?
I didn't remember.
I don't know.
You can't put up a billboard for advertising for McDonald's, though. That's,
No,
there are
we're
limits
talking,
to what
no,
you
they were
can do on your
specifically
property.
talking about political signs.
Yeah, and it's not codified yet, so I can't look it up right now, but, and I don't want to give you misinformation or spread misinformation through the
Okay.
TV, so I'd have to look that up and verify.
Will you send
'Cause
us
there
all
were
a
some
copy of
changes
that?
made at the public hearing.
You'll send us a copy of
The
that?
adopted ordinance?
Mhm.
Sure.
Yeah, that'd be great. Then we can,
And a link to it. It'll be on the county's website. People can look it up.
Eventually it will be.
yeah, and then, you know, and also, your interpretation, is there a difference between political signs on commercial property versus political signs on private property? Is there any difference in this?
Differently, yeah, under your code.
How can you treat those differently?
There's just different size limitations. Commercial establishments are allowed larger signs generally.
But we can have political signs on commercial properties.
Sure.
But they're limited in number.
How can you limit them in number? That's my question.
I'd have to verify whether
So-
that...
Okay, well, we'll take a look at
It's already
it. But
been
anyway,
passed.
those are, yeah, well, it's already been passed, but I think on 2 levels. One is so that we know what we
I'll
can
share that information
respond to
with
the
you.
citizens, and the second is, if there's something that we think we need to do a little better on, we can go back and take a look at it.
I
Okay.
never get questions like these. This is very interesting.
Really?
I do as well.
I got another issue. Maybe you got, let's see if this one will grab you. So there's a development, there's a person that I visited, maybe some others have visited, who feels like they're being impacted adversely by ongoing development near their home, with density of stormwater not being held on property. And they have a low spot. I mean, there's historically a low spot. But the perception is that it's getting worse now because of additional development. So where should this person go to...
Dr. Kessler, we've already addressed that.
Saraland?
The Saraland,
I
we've
know,
already
but
addressed that with the engineer.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I
The
met him out there.
construction, they're actually putting a diverter pipe in to the stormwater pond that's existing there. Commissioner Merritt and I met with the
I do know about
engineer
that.
out there,
There you go.
and
Cool.
it's already, it's in progress to be taken care of.
It's going to be an improvement over
That's
what
right.
it is.
So that site will hold all of its stormwater
But now,
once this is done,
let me just clarify
under a
that,
normal
that
storm.
I talked to one of my daughter, and she, we drove by there, and she said, she remembers, and I'm not saying anything negative about people, but she remembers helping them move out when it flooded before. That is in a low spot.
Yeah, and I've heard that also.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yes, we've taken all the measures to contain the stormwater on that project.
Good. Then the last thing is really a shout out to support one of our local businesses. We have this Wildwood Golf Course. I'm not sure if that's the same name that applies right now, but I saw that there's a sign out there with a special that's offered. But I think it's our only golf course in our county, and people really were fearful that it was going to disappear. And my word to the people is, if you want it to stay, use it.
Good idea.
I'm done.
Randy. One thing for me, anyone that would like to serve, we have an opening on the Parks Advisory Board. If you live in District 1 and would be interested in serving on that, please give me a call or give Jessica a call, and we'd be glad to.
I'd like to say something about that if I could. It's my personal thought that commissioners having an individual that they appoint to that board, I really don't like the way we do that. I like the planning commission, right, Melissa? Don't we all approve the person, all right, and because you have to have one person from some district. There's some committee that we changed that on.
Planning Commission does have one member from each
You
district.
change that on the code board.
Code board.
Right.
Okay, where there weren't, Jerry didn't have his guy and I had my guy. I don't like us having our own guy on committees, I like a citizen applies for it.
Or girl.
Huh?
Or woman. I think the word
That's
is
exactly
woman.
what I said. I
Yes.
said that.
Woman, yes.
Well, you said
said
guy.
that.
You said guy.
I said guy or girl. Y'all weren't listening? But anyway.
No, yeah,
The only,
we don't
the only
listen.
difficulty with that, Randy, is that, let's just say...
I said gly. That means...
Yes, now I remember.
Girl
He
or
did,
guy.
he did say gly. You're
Gly.
right. You're right.
In my district, they especially want somebody who's representing them.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
And somebody can I don't know.
As
If
long
somebody
as, I think as long as Ralph has someone in his district now, maybe they can apply for the position and the county can approve them or whatever.
Well, anyway, I didn't want to get into too big a discussion. I just want to say my philosophy is that I don't like the ideas of individual commissioners having their individual appointees. I think people should apply for the board. We look at the applications, who's the most qualified, and then we as a board vote to approve those
Yeah.
applications. But that was just my general thought.
And I fully agree on certain. I think it's critical to have people that are have the credentials to properly serve the people. I think we are sitting here, even though we are 5 different districts, we all get elected by the community
At large.
at large, so we're really 5 commissioners at large, and we have the overriding duty is to protect the entire county.
Exactly.
That's all I have. Jerry?
I'd just like to, David, how are we doing on the boat ramp at the marina at Panacea?
We are, they poured the slab on Friday.
Panacea.
Panacea.
I'm sorry, the Panacea.
Extending that one because you got a problem with large boats getting into
What,
the
Rock Landing one?
Rock Landing.
We're applying for a dredging permit now, and we're hoping to be dredging any time now. As soon as we dredge out, then we'll be able to push. Right
So-
now, we push right into a big sand hill.
Okay,
boat
I
ramp.
understand. Well, that's blow up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about the Mashes Sands ones? That project still go
Mashes
with...
Stand still go. I'm glad you said that. Mashes Stand still go, and also we got the preliminary plans
Shell
for
Point.
Shell Point. And
Beach
it's
renourishment.
very encouraging. It'll be very nice. They're going to do a lot more than just renourishment. So they're
Good.
adding some things in there which will make it very nice, and we expect the same thing. We're going through the same planning program right now with Magnolia. Mashed Sands, but we don't have any information.
There's going to be $1
on that.
million almost spent on Mashes Sands.
1.5.
Of grant money.
Yeah,
1.5
no,
million.
it's not grant
Yeah,
money.
nice.
This is not grant money.
NERDA.
This is NERDA, BP
It's not
money.
our money is what I'm
It's
trying to say.
BP money, that's right.
And they're still hauling the dirt in. They're not gonna dredge it, right?
That's right.
Is that gonna give us a problem with fill later down the road?
Possible. Yes.
That channel?
Yeah.
One
It's all-
other-
anytime you mess in that environment, you don't know what you're going to get. It's like a box of
And I
chocolates.
support that cypress tree out there. That cedar tree, I mean.
I know.
Randy, are you getting...
You're going to be happy. They're supporting that cedar tree too.
Yeah.
So
And I think Commissioner Chairman Thomas's point is a valid one. Fighting nature is a very difficult and expensive
mhm.
deal.
Yes, it is.
Does
Oh,
that-
it does all the time.
Does that include Randy's Bridge? Is that what we're talking about?
Randy's Bridge to nowhere, no.
Okay. One other thing I'd like to see us do, there's almost as many kayaks on top of cars today as they are
Yes, sir.
boats.
That is part of the Mashes Sand.
Skipper Bay
That would be great if we owned access in there.
Well, you can go through the Forest Service
Well,
to
we
a
can go up
point.
to the creek.
Yeah,
to the creek.
you can put a kayak,
Yes,
whatever.
we can.
And the reason for it there is it puts them in behind Piney, and it puts them right on top of the oyster bars, and it's just a great place to put a kayak launch.
I'm not
Okay.
giving up on that bridge, by the way.
No, your bridge will come one day.
But we are getting the
The
beach
grant won't pay
nourishment at
for it.
Mashes Sands. The Mashes Sands beach nourishment.
Not as of right now, no, sir.
No?
Mm.
Okay.
Shell Point, yes, but not
So
Mashes.
what
Shell
is the
Point.
project that is on track at Mashes Sands?
It's
Boat.
everything from
Pier,
the pier, the marina, the
boat
2
ramp,
bathrooms, boat ramp, and
walking trails.
tying
elevated
the beach and all
platforms.
that stuff. But it's just like with Shell Point. There's a possibility we can squeeze in renourishment. We still haven't. We're begging.
Didn't we have a renourishment on track at one time for
At one time, we were talking about it, yes, we wanted to pump around, the
Oh,
actual
we had
sand.
received notification that we were getting it. on
Yes,
that.
but then that wasn't the case. They pulled that back.
How are you accommodating parking at Massachusetts?
That's part of this program, is we're gonna expand the parking as well, a little bit. Now, problem is you're surrounded by marsh, so you
I
can
know.
only do
I
just
couldn't
so
figure
much.
out how they're gonna spend $1.5 million out there myself, but I guess they'll figure something out.
That's the reason I think
Government
reduction
money.
is in the
One day, Is that it, Jerry?
Yeah.
Richard?
I'm good.
All righty.
Motion to adjourn.
All right. Thank you all for coming out tonight.